other down. We'll believe in freedom, cannot rest until it's won.
Greetings and welcome to Love in Public, sponsored by Sarah Jones Law, PA. Our goal here at Love in Public is to discuss issues of community, social, and economic justice in a way that's relatable and accessible to everyday people. So our guest today is Daryl Starling. Daryl Starling is the CRA 3 director for the city of Lake Wales, and I know most of you probably have no idea what that means, so I'll have him explain it here in a minute. But I am definitely really excited to talk to Daryl this morning. For those of you who don't know, I actually talk to Daryl all the time. We are working together on some major projects for Lake Wales, which I'm super excited about, and we'll talk about here today. So without any more of me running on, Daryl, introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Thank you so much, first of all, Sarah, for even considering me being on your podcast. I know how integral this podcast is into like community progress. And I just, I thank the world of you, and I appreciate you for even reaching out to me. Again, my name is Darrell Starling, and I'm the CRA actual coordinator for the CRA 3 area. So that's the Northwest community. So what basically the elevator speech of my role is to encourage economic development, housing development, and also prepare grants that will support redevelopment and revitalization within the Northwest community. So that means I link up with developers, business owners, potential business owners. I help out. We research grants. We create grants, all revolving around redeveloping a specific area with housing or economic development.
Okay, and let's get into some of this for people who aren't from Lake Wales or who aren't familiar with what we've been doing with this redevelopment plan. So can you kind of talk about what the CRA is, what the Northwest section is, and sort of how that relates to your job?
Yes, yes. So CRA stands for Community Redevelopment Agency, and CRA areas are just saturated all throughout Polk County. And what CRAs are designed to do is, like I said, support redevelopment in that area through the TIF funding. So the government has allocated a certain amount of funding that's pushed toward these CRAs to do housing redevelopment, to do housing rehab, to support economic development, support potential business owners, individuals that want to do business in that specific CRA area. So our focus right now in the CRA is downtown and the Northwest community. And if you guys have a chance, I would definitely encourage you to go to lakewellscra.gov.com, sorry, and you can look at the Dover Coal plan. That's our CRA plan, and you can look at our uh, Lake Wells Connected plan that goes over the the future plans for the Northwest community and also the downtown community. So it spells out what the community wants, and that's some of the things that I'm tasked with working on. Sarah Jones, she was actually a part of some of the groups that helped form the Lake Wells Connected plans for the Northwest and downtown community. So she can definitely speak to that as well. But that's what I'm tasked to do to help redevelop and revitalize the Northwest community, which is CRA 3.
Okay, and so for those of you guys who, like I said, aren't from Lake Wales or aren't familiar or just like some of my friends don't like maps very much, the northwest section of Lake Wales is sort of the area surrounding the Lincoln Avenue Business District, which used to be the Black Business District for the city of Lake Wales during prior times when we had segregation and the business district wasn't one. And surrounding that business district is a large residential neighborhood which is the historically Black neighborhood in the city of Lake Wales. And so what we found is probably over the last 20 or 30 years, that area of the city has received less and less attention, become more and more blighted. The business district has become all but vacant. And as we watch the rest of the city sort of develop and move into the 21st century and do all the things that we think that a city should do, What we found is that has not happened in the Northwest section. So when Dover Cole was working with the city to create this new plan for the city, we really, really put a lot of effort into making sure that the redevelopment plan for the Northwest section really spoke to the lived experiences of the people who had historically lived there, and was one in which the people who had historically inhabited that area could continue to inhabit that area and benefit from the redevelopment. We did not want a sort of gentrification process where we increase the value of the land in the neighborhood according to the property appraiser or whoever is evaluating it, but then the people who had traditionally lived there could no longer afford it because it didn't consider their lived experiences, or they didn't want to live there because the neighborhood changed so much in value and culture and quality, that it no longer spoke to their experiences. So we sort of went through a painstaking, I want to say almost 2 year long process, to really create a plan that we believe will be conducive to the success of the Northwest neighborhood. And Daryl, I'm sure you know that your job was sort of born out of that. That desire to make sure that we do right by the people of Lake Wales. So I'm so excited to have you on to talk about what you've done in the short time that you've been here. For those of you guys who don't know Daryl, Daryl has hit the ground running. He, I don't think, has wasted a single minute since he's been employed by the CRA, which I thoroughly appreciate. And so I really want to talk about some of those efforts. But before we do that, I'd like to talk about what led you to those efforts. So, can you tell us a little bit? I can tell from knowing you myself that you just have a huge passion for justice and for community, and for the type of work that you do. So, can you kind of give us a little background on how you got here?
Yes, yes. Thank you for asking, Sarah. And you're correct. I have a passion for community revitalization, community redevelopment. I'm actually from a community similar to the Northwest community. I'm from Tampa, born and raised in Tampa, from a community called West Tampa. West Tampa is very interesting. We're going through, I would say, somewhat of a gentrification right now, unfortunately. Um, I poured a lot. I got a lot of out of West Tampa, and I always told myself that I wanted to go back and some way or fashion serve my community through helping it revitalize itself. I wasn't able to do that, so that's why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing in the Northwest community. So, brief history of me: born and raised in Tampa. Went to Blake High School right in West Tampa. I didn't really know what I wanted to do because I was a knucklehead in school, so I didn't really buckle down and study or anything like that. So I did know that I needed to continue with my education out of high school. So graduated barely out of high school with a 2.0. I went to Liberty University for a year because I got saved after I graduated high school, and I still had some of those bad features, attributes that I had in high school, middle school, of not studying or anything like that. So I went up there to play football as well, but I didn't have the grades, so I had to come back down here and really buckle down and think about what I wanted to do. And social service had always spoken to me. um, I used to unfortunately see social workers take HRS, take kids away from their home. I witnessed that a couple times in my community, and it scared me, but also it intrigued me of what led to kids being taken out of their home. So I was around a great servant, two great servants, which is my mother and my grandmother. My mother raised me, my grandma co-raised me, but they showed me the value of really serving individuals. So when I came back from Liberty, that was the direction I went into social service. So I applied to go to USF. Was blessed with being accepted from US at USF, and I got a BA into the interdisciplinary social science with cognizant social work and criminology. So I then took off my social service career. I spent about 10 or so years just working from everywhere from children and families, homelessness, drug and substance abuse, mental health care. I ran the gauntlet of social service program. But through all that, I always knew I wanted to give back to my community, as I stated before. So one day I just reached out to Councilman Frank Reddick from District 5, City Councilman in Tampa. He was over the district I grew up in. And I said, look, I want to do something for my community. I want to get involved because I did have a political itch. And he just wrapped his arms around him and Cedric McCrae just wrapped their arms around me and got me involved with community activity, community engagement. And from that, I got put under some great community leaders who extended the olive branch to allow me to sit on the East Tampa Community Revitalization Partnership. So we would give recommendations for TIF funding for the CRA board. So that's how I got introduced to the CRA because Councilman Reddick, he sat on the CRA board. So I was co-chair of the Land Economic Development and Land Use Subcommittee, where I was able to bless with starting the business incubator for East Tampa. We started the first ever East Tampa open market that was designed to be that business incubator for small businesses in East Tampa. So if you had a business where you were, making clothes or you were selling food or you were just doing something on a small level, we wanted to showcase that at our open market. And it was the first open market in Tampa, black open market. It was at Al Barnes Park, and I believe that they're still doing that open market till today. So I always had that itch to get into community engagement, but I still, throughout the years, continued with my social service career. But then recently, I sat down and talked to my wife. I was like, you know what? I think I think my social service career it's coming to a close because I want to pour my efforts, pour what God has blessed me with into a community like West Tampa. And it's just by I don't say chance. It's by the grace of God. He showed me that Lake Wellsboro was hiring for a CRA coordinator, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" Um, so I read the description, I applied, and I was basically just in between jobs, to be honest with you, because I was really I was bent on not just settling for another job. I wanted a career. I wanted a passion. And I sat down and did little odds and ends jobs, but I didn't want to go back to social service. And then this came up. James and Mark Bennett, my director of development service, gave me a call, and hey, the rest is history. And I'm here in Lake Wells and absolutely loving it. But this incorporates everything that I was taught when I was in Tampa, serving on the advisory committee, just being educated on TIF funding, passion for my community, the initiatives that we started. This incorporates everything that I brought to that advisory committee in this position. So that's why you're correct, Sarah. I wanted to hit the ground running because I want to show you, who's a fifth generation Northwest community resident. I want to show you and also people like you and the city of Lake Wells that listen, you did right by choosing me to be a CRA 3 coordinator, and I'm not looking back, and I'm full steam ahead, as you know, Sarah.
Yeah. So that's so awesome. And I really appreciate that. Like you said, I am a fifth generation Lake Wells resident. And this place means a lot to me. And so I have been an advocate for the change that I believe needs to happen here. A lot of the changes the community has suggested need to happen. And it has been such a breath of fresh air to have you in this position to be able to work with and coordinate with to really accomplish the things that we planned. One of the things that I said in the very beginning, when they first invited me into the conference room at City Hall to sort of be a leader in this effort, was I will not be a part of another plan that does not come to fruition. I had seen so many plans that people before me had made get dusty on the shelf, and they spent all this money on these plans to have a neighborhood that continued to go down and get more blighted and not have investment put back into it. And so I actually was able to meet you and have a discussion with you before you were actually our CRA director. And that, a lot of the stuff that you just said, we talked about that day. And I was so excited, and I'm so excited now to see that the same man I saw that day is the same man who actually came to work for the city, because we know that's always not that, that's not always the case.
Well, thank you.
But to have the background and all the things that we've been talking about, housing and land development was chief amongst the principles that we had really talked about with putting this plan together, and knowing that that was a huge issue for the Northwest community. Um, and so when you talked about your experience with housing and the things that you wanted to do, that that so much was in line with what we had talked about, that I started knowing at that point, okay, this is somebody who we can work with. And then we talked about the economic development thing. And I really want to get back to what you were talking about the open market, because we talked about doing that in Lake Wales along with some other initiatives. But before we get there, I have to mention something that you said that I did not know, and that I would sort of be remiss if I did not address. So, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I do other types of law as well. I do personal injury and family law. Um, but the area that I've sort of become known for is my work in criminal defense, and I have a passion for working with young Black men who I see have the same sorts of issues that you talked about you had in high school, with not paying as much attention to your grades, being distracted. And I'm so inspired to see where you came from there. And so, can you just talk to us, to the audience, to me for a moment about how you went from what I presume to be a pretty good kid. You said you had great people raising you, to that sort of adolescent time where, excuse me, I think a lot of us have issues just coming of age, particularly as people of color. For you, particularly as a boy growing into a man of color, um, what was that experience like for you going through that, and then further the experience of realizing that something needed to change, and sort of growing into the man you are today?
Wow, that's a loaded question, still, and I'll try to be as frame it as quick as possible. But
Excuse the lawyer asking difficult questions.
oh no, that's a great question. So I need to clarify that I was not a good kid growing up. I was
Okay.
a very bad kid growing up. I
Well,
had
let's qualify that. What does that mean? How do you
so
describe
I
yourself as
used
a bad
to I had a really short fuse.
kid? Hmm.
Um, I got suspended a lot because I got into a lot of fights. I was always good in math, and um, that kind of helped me stay the course. Because some teachers throughout my life identified that I was good in math, but and great in sports. But at the end of the day, I just I wouldn't say I love to fight, but I fought a lot. I got suspended a lot.
Where do you think
My
that came
mom.
from?
So probably some things that happened to me in the household. My mom, she was, man, I can't speak of that's the greatest person I've met. My mom, and just watching her being a single mom, raising three kids, trying to go to school. Just we had a elderly grandmother. She was partially blind when I was younger, and then she was 100% blind when I got into about high school. But just watching my mom, just struggle, but still not complain. I remember her going to because we used to shop for my grandmother almost on a weekly basis. I remember her loading us up on a city bus and going to shop for my grandmother, and us toting all those groceries because we had to shop for ourselves too on a bus. Um, and just seeing that stuff that my mom went through, it did frustrate me. I didn't really have a close male role model. My uncles, they played a great part into just showing me, what a man should do. But I didn't have like a close male figure in my life. My granny, she was the backbone of our family. I would sit down and just listen to my grandmother of how she even struggled as a single mom. But her father, who raised my grandmother and my great aunt and my great uncle, he himself was a single parent because his wife died of cancer. But just that legacy of people just being servants. It both inspired me, but it also frustrated me as well. I came from a community that only had one. Um, one of my friends had their father figure in their home, so we were basically just running running the neighborhood, just doing terrible things. But my mother, she never let me complain about my surroundings and use that as a crutch. I can complain about it. I can complain that people, may have nicer things than me, or people may be picking on me and stuff like that. But I couldn't use that as a crutch, just because she was just a strong, strong woman, and that's where I get all of my strength from. And but it, like I said, it encouraged me, but it also frustrated me too, because I didn't want to see my mom, just in situations like she was put in. So I would act out. Just I'm just being, 100 with you. I would act out. Maybe I don't even think she knows this, to be honest with you. But that was partially because of just being frustrated, as a youth, and not being able to do a lot to support my mom.
Do
But
you do you
mhm.
feel like the adults in your life understood that your frustration and your anger at your situation and your family situation was the cause of you misbehaving?
I didn't talk a lot, to be honest with you, Sarah. Um, and that's one thing that I'm so glad that you're taking up, the cause of, really wrapping your arms around our young black men, and showing them that they do have an identity, because, the streets shouldn't raise you. The streets have nothing for you. You should have something for the street when it in terms of your voice.
Hmm.
So yeah, we go through trials and tribulations, but don't ever let anyone take away your voice. And for a long time, I didn't talk. For a long time, I didn't say anything. My family members, I'm pretty sure they would have supported me more, if they knew, kind of like, what led me to do some of the things that I did. But I just didn't. I didn't talk. I just acted out, and because that's the only way I knew how to get, things done, or how to get people's attention, or how to get, things done my way, was to act out.
Well,
So
it's so funny because I talk to a lot of my clients and their families and people in the community who aren't my clients about the ways in which we put boys, especially young black boys, in a box, and we tell them that the only things that they can feel are anger and lust. And so we, in a lot of ways, don't give young black boys and young boys generally, honestly, the space to say, I'm hurting, I'm afraid. And we don't give them a language to say it either. Because our language in response to that is something indicating that you are less than a man or less than masculine. And the concept that feminine is less than masculine is a whole other thing that we need to tackle, but we won't go there today. But my point is that I wonder to a certain extent how much of you not saying anything was you not having a language for it until you became older and really started to analyze and identify for yourself why you had engaged in behavior that you didn't really believe in.
yeah, yeah, I think that's, you hit it right on the head, and creating those platforms for our youth. Um, and then it should go beyond our youth too, because our black men, they need to, sometimes we need to open up more. I got, as an adult, the Lord has brought me these brothers, man. Without them, I don't know where I would be. And they're my four brothers. One is a pastor. One, he's just a community leader. He grew up, just on the grind, come from a bad background of selling dope, but he's reformed his life. One is a business owner. Uh, he's a barbershop owner, and the other one, he's a, TPD officer, Tampa Police Department officer. And these brothers, who all black men, have poured so much into me, that I'm able to really speak out, because really, really before them, I really never talked about my upbringing, and
Mhm.
things that led me to do some of the things that I did. But they gave me a platform. They did, and these are brothers that really listened, and then we're accountability partners for one another. but they really allowed me to shape, who I am, because of some of the things that I went through. Not to say that I still have a short temper or anything like that, but it did shape some of the decisions that I made, as an adult, because of some of the stuff I remember, Sarah, just, just to go off on another road. I remember just trying to be a protector in my family. I would stay up multiple nights and sleep standing up in the hallway. Seriously, because of the unrest in my community. Because I did see a lot of, I seen the man shot in the head. One of my friends, he stole a car and he got into a car accident and he perished at an early age. I seen a lot, and
It's
I was that.
trauma.
It is trauma, and I was that protector in my family. And like I said, my mom probably don't even know. She know I would, sometimes stand up in the hallway. She thought it was because I was scared, but no, I had girls in my home. I was the only man.
And
But
I think
see,
it was that you were afraid, but not in the way that she thought. You were afraid
exactly, exactly,
of something happening to the people you love most.
exactly.
And you felt obligated in a way to make sure that didn't happen to them. And that's something that I see all the time. And this is actually not the direction I planned on going today. But again, I'd be remiss if we didn't go ahead and go here. So there's two things that you said in terms of the one, the being the protective part, right? I see a lot of that. Um, People who I see being labeled as bad, and just have this blanket, broad generalization that because of things that they've done in the past or were perceived to have done, that they're bad. But then when I talk to them, they have that same notion of I want to protect my family. I want to make sure that the people I love are safe. And I think that's a difficult dichotomy for a lot of people to conceptualize because we tend to view people as very two-dimensional and only what we know about them.
Yeah.
The second thing that I really wanted to address, which came up earlier, but I was really enjoying listening to you speak, was the concept of brotherhood. And so this is something that I talk about a lot because I see that a lot of Black men, and again, a lot of men in general, do not foster um, platonic friendships in a lot of ways, whether it's with other men or with women. And so their relationships are either very deep and intimate with with their lovers or wives or whatever, or very, very surface level where there's no intimacy at all in the relationship. It's very much just about having fun or having something to do to not be bored. And what that really reminded me of in a lot of ways, I could go on a tangent about that farther than we've already gone, but what that really reminded me of is my clients who are in gangs. And I see how the offer of brotherhood, the notion that they're a part of something that's bigger than them, pulls them in. And I'll see them at 12 and 13 years old, and nobody's asked them to do anything illegal. They just invited them in and said, hey, you can come hang out with us. But by the time they're 15 and 16, they're robbing people and, stealing things and breaking into people's homes and carrying guns and different things like that because they've been indoctrinated into this culture. But they have felt so supported by being included that they stop recognizing the things that they're doing as being very wrong. And so I love that you were invited in by a group of people who had your best interest at heart, who did not simply invite you in to be a part of some negative thing, but instead they said, hey, we have positive things that are going on in our lives. And we see you as somebody who wants to have positive things going on. And they really provided you that support and that room to grow into the man that you wanted to be. And I guess I'll take this moment to challenge people in our community to take that time with our young men, to recognize them as something more than whatever the names is that whatever those names are that we can sort of narrow them down to and say, hey, they're being bad, they do this, they do that, they carry guns. And I hear that so often by the successful people in our community that say just pull up your pants, in a lot of ways. And what I wonder is how can they even understand the value, the deep-seated value in the things that we're trying to portray to them, to say, quick money ain't always the best money. And the things that you're doing, you might make $1,000 a day, and then Grady Judd go lock you up tomorrow, and you have zero. And they don't see the consequences of those actions because the people who are their brothers, the people who are their following, have quite frankly gone down the same path that they've gone down. And so I love to hear that your truth, that your transition into becoming who you want it to be, involves offers of people in positions of authority and power. And like you said, they wrap their arms around you. So that being said, what made you, and I forgot the city official that you referred to, but what made you have the courage to approach the city of Tampa and say, hey, this is what I want to do? Because I see a lot of people who have these aspirations, but when it comes to actually taking that step to say, okay, let me reach out and use this resources that might be available to me, or see this person who, like, I ran into a young lady probably 2 months ago at Waffle House, and she saw my FAMU hoodie, saw actually my husband's FAMU law hoodie, and said, oh, I want to be an attorney. I went out to the car and got her business card, and I haven't heard from her. I don't think, and I told her, I said, listen, I'll take you to lunch, we can talk about it, because she said she wanted to go to FAMU law. And I don't think that I haven't heard from her because she's not interested. I think that I haven't heard from her because she has not gotten up the courage to actually reach out to me, because I seem to be in this position that she wants to be in. And I probably don't seem all that relatable to her just from that interaction. And I think there's a bit of imposter syndrome that says, I'm not good enough to do what it is that I want to do. So can you kind of talk about how to muster that courage to go to the person who is involved in the thing that you're interested in and say, hey, I'm interested in this too. How can I be involved?
So, and like I said, my mom, I was born a networker. I was born just getting out and just getting on the grind. We have this thing in our family where we say we got to do what we got to do, and it's like, okay, if the ball is in your court and you don't have everything you need to make the shot, you got to do what you got to do. Find a way, and that whole mentality has always stuck with me. So I was, it was literally almost like just one day something just clicked in my head. I was like, you know what? I'm tired of just seeing my community struggle. I'm tired of seeing people who look like me get murdered. People who look like me, have this we have a glass ceiling type of mentality. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do something for my community, because I'm not gonna be one of those people who always looks at one of the youth that you're referring to and say, you need to pull up your pants, or you need to go to school, or you need to just stop selling dope. That's your problem. No, it's deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out to Frank Reddit because plain and simple, he looked like me, and he was over the district that I was over, that I grew up in. And I from a very young age said that, you know what, I do a lot of bad stuff in this community, but one day I want to just do something. And I had that in the back of my mind. So like that day that it clicked, like I need to do something, I started researching the mayor of the city of Tampa. And then from that, I researched city councilman, and it was just intriguing to me how it was broken up in certain districts. And then I was like, oh, look at this guy. He's over West Tampa District, District 5. And I was like, I gotta reach out to him and just see what's going on. And his aide was a young guy like me. So I reached out to him, and the key thing that you mentioned before, Sarah, when one of these young people reach out to you, or they don't even have to be young, they just need advice or need some guidance. Don't turn a deaf ear to these individuals, because you never look at me. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I know it was, exactly what I want to do. I know it was something to helping my community, but Frank, Councilman Frank read a testament to him and Cedric McCray. They lended an ear, and then they wrapped their arms around me. They started inviting me to things, and they got me onto the ETCRP. And from that point on, I just was like, you know what? I'm not turning back. I know I got to do something to help my community, or a community like mine. So I had that this tenacity to always seek because of my mom. I saw how she was just a go getter, but just me doing research, and then this is like the dots connected. All these things had to connect for me to really get to the ETCRP because my mom, I got that from her, that trait. I had to do my own research, and then Councilman Reddit had to lend an open ear, and open arms to me, wanting to learn more and not look at me as a threat. And I unfortunately I can tell you that my my career I've had a lot of doors slammed in my face because people who look like me saw me as a threat.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that's embedded into people in our community that we need to just extinguish, because we need to help each other. We
Absolutely.
need to help each other. That's how we're going to see real progress. And help means, you know, lending the open ear to someone who wants to be better than they are and
Right.
not giving up. And I tell young people, and I'll let you talk after this. I tell young people all the time, listen, I believe in people, first of all. If someone comes to me and tell me that, listen, this person is XYZ, okay, that's your opinion. I believe in that person because someone had to believe in me. So that's the mentality we need to have to really have progress in our own community. And I'm excited that you're doing exactly that, Sarah.
I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, even though this is not the direction we planned on going. We went over our sort of run a show before we started, and this was not in it, but this is such great information. And I've heard a lot of people sort of call me naive, because I really believe in the capacity of people to be amazing, even people whose history is not amazing. And what I've found is that the vast majority of people who engage in crimes or deviant behavior have some sort of history, where resources were not available to them, be it physical or emotional, mental resources, educational resources, were not available to them early in life at some point, or they experienced some sort of traumatic event, from which they had not yet recovered. And because of the activity that they engaged in, people wrote them off as being bad. But I have sat in front of hundreds of clients and had the discussion of, once we get you out of this, you better never end up back here. And I've had so many clients tell me, thank you. Thank you for not the part of getting them out of trouble, which I'm sure they're glad they didn't go to jail or whatever the case may have been, but for what happens after, for having the discussion of, now that you're here and you don't have anything to do, you don't have anything but time. All you have to do is think. And what I want you to be thinking about is how to end up not back here, and having
Exactly.
those discussions about, how did you end up here in the first place? And I think that that's something we as a community really need to unpack. And the here is not just committing crimes and engaging in deviant behavior. The here is also what you talked about, of being threatened by another successful person of color.
Yes.
Because the reality is, there's enough out here for all of us to eat. And we have our own stories in our head about the economy being depressed and nobody having money, and they're only going to support one black person who does XYZ. And it's simply untrue. All it takes is for you to go to the Caribbean to see that. And what right. And so what has happened, I think, is um, we have formed in our mind a perception that is untrue. And what has happened is, we don't live in a society that is predominantly us. And so we don't know what that can look like, because the society that we've been raised in tells us something different. And so because we haven't experienced it, we just believe the stories. And what you said about your mother is incredibly powerful as well, because I think that's a huge difference. If our parents believe those stories, if the people who raised us believe those stories, then it is even more difficult for us to begin to conceptualize that those things aren't true. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw you struggle even a little bit to describe the difficulty you had in your childhood because of your respect for your mother. And I think a lot of us don't want to portray the negative aspects of our childhood or our development, because we really, really appreciate and respect the people who reared us. And we don't want to give the false impression that they didn't do a good job, or that they didn't work hard, or that they didn't provide in every way possible. But there's also this trauma and hurt that may not have come from that person, but it's still real and it still exists. And like I was discussing before, we have to develop a language for it to be okay to talk about those things. And part of that is forming mentorships and menteeships, and a part of that is having brothers and sisters and friends that we can have those real discussions with. Like me and really close group of friends of mine, we have this joke that like every time we can't do something, we blame our mothers for not teaching us how to do it. And it's a joke, but it's also sort of a relief to be able to say, I love my mom. My mom did a great job. She made sure I did not die and gave me everything she possibly could. But there were things that were missing. There were parts of the experience of childhood or of coming of age that impacted me negatively, and I have to work through those things to be the adult and the contributing member of society that I know that I can be. And those are very, very difficult conversations.
They are. They are. And you, I mean, Sarah, you hit everything on the head, and I just wanted to just highlight. So my mom, yeah, she did a great job of raising me. Yeah, I fought back as much as I could. I was even placed on a diversion program, taken to court and all of that just because of my anger issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to definitely, penetrate anyone who's listening, who's thinking about being a mentor, or who has a what we call a knucklehead family member. Don't give up on them. Please don't give up on them. And for the men out there, I would task, and I talked to some brothers at a black on black roundtable discussion in Tampa at Middleton High School. I was like, you know what? We're doing a lot of talking in here, but if one of us professional men can mentor one youth,
Just
um,
one.
one youth, and that would go a long ways. And we started a barbershop mentoring program out of that. But I say that to say this, Sarah, we as men, as black men, sometimes we have an issue receiving love from another man, especially if you didn't grow up with a man close to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's an issue, and I can tell you right now, that was an issue with me when I met my brothers. Man, they're my brothers. When I met them, it just felt weird, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But it shouldn't
Because
feel like
society tells you that even just regular brotherly love, it gives this, we have this whole impression, again, because we only allow men to feel anger and lust, um, that this is somehow something sexual.
yeah,
And
exactly.
and there's a whole nother problem with this homophobia and the fear of that in general. And I think that comes from a lot of sexual trauma and history of things that have happened in this country and to individuals and different things like that. But it's unfamiliar. And so our mind travels to what's familiar. And the only familiar type of intimacy, if you've been raised under these notions, is sex. And so then this person who's trying to give you a hug because they know you're hurting, like, why are you touching me? And that's dangerous.
Yeah. You and I are very aware of the different levels of love. You know, agape. What is it? Filios.
Don't ask me the
Filios.
names. Like I got the
Okay.
concepts. I'm
But but
horrible with
but but but
names.
what Philadelphia, how Philadelphia was derived, their name Philadelphia. That's that brotherly love. But
Right.
I think that, man, we as men, we have to, and I do a lot of challenging men. Because I think that's where it starts. To be honest with you, we have to show our young brothers love. And we have to get this notion out of our mind, just like you said, that it always has to be sexual. No, it does not. I'm I'm an example of that. I had to open up to some brothers who were more mature than me mentally, and I had to be vulnerable.
Hmm.
I had to allow them to, come into my safe space. And I'm a better man because of that. I have two boys, God bless me with, and I'm gonna raise them the same exact way. But we have to get out, just like you said, out of our minds this notion that it has to be soft or sexual, or you have to stay hard. No, that stuff is what's hurting us as men in the black community. That, oh, I'm repping my hood. I rep my homeboy, but I'm not gonna show him love like. a love from a brother, a close brother to a close brother. I'm gonna show
Yeah,
him
I can
hood.
rep him, but I can't hug him.
No, no, listen, man, I'll do anything for these brothers, anything,
Right, right.
anything. So we have to, as men, we have to learn how to pour, show our love, because we probably have it for our family members and these some of these knuckleheads on the street who we're mentoring, but we really have to show that by example and put our arms around them and tell them like, look, man, yeah, if you want to hit me, you want to fight me or whatever, that's fine, but that's not gonna change how I love you, man. That's not.
And
And
it
yeah, you gonna
can't. It
yeah,
can't because a lot of
right,
people will have that. They'll say it in the beginning, and when that person disappoints them, then they no longer want to be associated. And I think that that is one of the things that we struggle with as well. Is that understanding that they probably not gonna get it right the first time. They're gonna come back and make another mistake. These are habits that were built over time, and you saying something to a person one time is not likely to change their habits, and it's not for a lack of motivation or because they don't care, but because that's human nature. That's the way our brains and our bodies work. Is that we are creatures of habit, and so when we are upset, when we are bothered, when we are overwhelmed, we revert back to what we know. And it takes time after time after time of somebody saying, no, 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 I love you. No, you
yep,
can do this. No, you're not an
yep,
imposter. Yes, you are worthy.
yes,
And asking you, what are you good at? And you being able to realize there are things that you're good at, even if you might be in a depressed state or in a state of mind where you don't view yourself that way.
mhm,
Somebody else encouraging you and inspiring you and pointing out the ways in which you are credible and worthy contribute to that change.
yeah. Like I said, Sarah, you hitting it right on the head, and you have to believe in people, because who am I to continue to judge and just make people feel small for some of the mistakes? I'm a testament. I made mistake after mistake after mistake, but just like you said, people showed that they love me. They didn't just say it; they stood by me. And that's important, because when everyone else, just like people say that you said that people say you're naive, but you believe in people. And
Hmm.
other people say that, you know what, you can't fix that person, or you can't get through that person. No, maybe I may not be able to get through them, through a verbal discussion. Maybe I can get through them from my action 5 years later by showing them
And
that
it's
I'm still here.
impossible to get through to them if you don't believe you can.
That is true. That is true. So we have to change that, inside out first,
Hmm.
because we have a lot of things, just like you said, because of past experiences, in our community, stuff that happened to, people who look just like you and I, a history of that. A lot of that stuff is still embedded in us, but we don't have to carry that, to our, and give that off to our youth and, people we mentor. We can stop that right now.
Right, right.
And it starts with us. So I'm so pleased to hear that you're in that same frame of mind, to believe in people, not give up on people, give people chances, and build people up when they sometimes don't believe in themselves, because
Right.
that shows love. That
Hmm.
shows love, and that's something I'm a recipient of, and that's why I'm here today. To be honest with you.
And that is a perfect segue back to our run of show, because we're talking about love in public and the fact that justice is love in public. And so when you're talking about that action, I really would like for us to talk about the actions that we're taking. So of course I know some of these things, but I really want us to talk about what we're doing to sort of put our money where our mouth is and do these things in our city, and hopefully create programs that are replicable so that other communities can look at what we've done and institute similar actions to sort of look at their Northwest type neighborhoods or their West Tampa type neighborhoods and say, we can do these things too. So I know you've talked about the open air market. I want you to talk a little bit about that. I want you to talk about the mural. And I would really love to talk about, I know this one is still a budding idea, but what we've been talking about, the food trucks and, bringing people together in the Northwest community.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Sarah. I'm so excited about, things that are um, still in the planning stages, but they're happening. I know people will go through the Northwest community and look and say, man, nothing is happening. But it takes planning
Hmm.
to get things right.
Yeah.
You don't want to just throw something together, but
And
it
real
takes
change is incremental.
and that is true. Yes, it is incremental. And you want the right people at the table making these plans, for the community, and you're one of those people.
Well, thank
Along with Mr. Peterson, you and I we're forming a mural task force.
you.
So, but this is a testament to you, Sarah, for you really spending those that time coming up with that Lake Wells connected plan and identify art that needs to be poured into the redevelopment of the Northwest community. So right now, I'm excited to say that we're working on a mural project that's going to be on the intersection of Lincoln Avenue and C Street. It's going to be a street mural designed. Everybody I talked to about the design, they're excited about it. So it'll be the image. If I'm okay to say what the image
Yeah,
is,
go ahead, go
okay.
ahead.
the image the image will be a lion, and the line will be decorated in earth tones, and around the line will be very bright and vibrant colors to signify the future and the progress that we're making. So the line has several layers. I want to make sure I get it right. Sarah, you can interrupt me if you can. But the lion, the significance of that has several layers. Lion's strength, lion pride is community, unity, but most of all, it signifies a spiritual aspect. That this is a community that's on the go. It's community that's living now. Although, yeah, Lincoln Avenue, some may say it's desolate. Some may say that it's just surrounded by blight. It's nothing's happening. But this lion signifies that this place is still alive. This community is still alive. And I love that you chose that, Sarah, because I'm a man that follows biblical principles, and I know the significance of the lion. So I'm so glad to say that EJ Nieves, he's a community oriented person. He's the artist that will be bringing that street mural to fruition, and his I guess mantra, the thing that he goes by is building bridges, not kingdoms. So
That's so
I think that
awesome.
works perfectly with this initiative. So we're planning on this being either finished or somewhat half finished and started during February, because we did want to parallel that with Black History Month, because that's extremely important for us to celebrate Black History Month and all of the great things that are happening in a Black community. So we wanted to bring that to fruition, possibly the week of 20th or the 21st. Around that time, we'll like to bring it to completion. But we'll have a time lapse. We'll record it. We'll make sure that the community is involved. So another thing that I left out, a very important thing, maybe the most important thing, um, in that mural around the lion's head in those bright and vibrant colors will be the history of Lincoln Avenue, will be the individuals who play a pivotal role, the business owners that who played a pivotal role in making Lincoln Avenue what it was and what it will be. So these will be previous business owners who started basically Lincoln Avenue, and these names are given to us by community leaders. Sarah, Mr. Peterson, he's going back and we're collecting these names, and we're going to compile it to a list, and then we're going to put those names around that lion head, because we don't ever want to forget where we came from. So I'm so glad that Sarah, you and Mr. Peterson, you guys are on board with that. You guys created that. I'm just a person who listens to you guys' ideas and trying to make it brought to fruition and connect the dots. So that's one thing that I know that it will bring a certain energy in the community. We plan to make it an event, make sure we stay by COVID guidelines, but we plan to make it an event where the community can come out and just see what we're doing on Lincoln Avenue. And I thought no better place to start this revitalization effort and get the community involved was Lincoln Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
People come in Lincoln Avenue and think that there's nothing happening in Lincoln Avenue. They've given up on Lincoln Avenue. But Lincoln Avenue is just a great, great thing in the heart of the Northwest community. It's a great, great area. And we haven't given up on Lincoln Avenue. That's the start. So that's one thing that we're doing. Another thing that we're doing is we're building up the tax base. We're building up the property value in Northwest community by bringing not only affordable housing but mixed income housing to build that property value up in the Northwest community. Now, I know when people hear, mixed income and stuff like that, they think of, oh no, I don't want to say the trigger word, gentrification.
Yeah.
This has absolutely, and Sarah, you can attest to this. This has absolutely no um it doesn't encompass anything that is gentrification or gentrified or anything like that.
Well, I want to address something, and I don't mean to cut you off because I want you to keep talking, but I can't not address this. The rhetoric in the common falsely held belief is that all Black people are poor. That is not true by any means. By any means. There are a lot of us who live comfortably, who have the means, and who are ready and willing and able to contribute to our community. And so when we
Mhm.
talk about mixed income housing, we're not saying that we're going to bring in, and not to say Black people are the only ones allowed in the neighborhood. I'm not saying that at all. But when people think of mixed income housing, what they think of, and y'all know I just say what I think. They think of a bunch of white people coming in from somewhere else. They got a bunch of money. Some of them gonna live in the houses, but most of them gonna rent it out at rates that are too high and bring in, a bunch of people who don't understand the culture, the composition of the neighborhood, and eventually push the people out who have always lived there. One of the
Exactly.
goals of the redevelopment is to, one, not change the culture, but to add to the culture, to bring the new life. So I think that that's one of the things the mural represents is the earth tones, the dark, deep colors that have stereotypically and typically represented our community are the base. They are the skull, the face of the lion head. But as you see the mane grow out, it symbolizes the youth, the energy, the redevelopment in those bright colors. But still mixed into those bright colors are the names of the business owners and the people who started all of this. And so it's that symbol of it being one. And I think that's what the Lake Wales Connected Plan is about,
Yes.
at its core. And so I think of the mural as sort of the concrete and the rose, or the rose and the concrete, as this first symbol of life and beauty coming out of this hardness that the neighborhood has been. And part of the purpose is to inspire and to give you a visual representation of what's about to happen here. And so I think that at first it may seem a little out of place, right? But it draws your attention because it is out of place and it makes you wonder what's happening here. And as the redevelopment continues, it becomes very clear what's happening here. And it's a continuation of what we started in the beginning. So I think that the symbolism of it is so, so powerful. It's going to be beautiful. I've seen the work by the artists before, and it's going to be beautiful. I love the fact that the community is going to have the opportunity to participate, and at least some of us are going to have a chance to actually put paint on the ground. I love that we're going to document it so that, for current residents, for people who don't live here, for people who will see what we've done in the future, will see the change from what is to what will be. And I think that's such a powerful thing. And that's what we're doing with the land. What we're doing with the people probably is even more powerful, because we know that we like to gather. And that may not be popular to say during COVID, but we're going to take precautions. But to be able to bring us together in a way that's positive, in a way that's productive, in a way that encourages financial and economic empowerment, in a way that encourages family, and fraternity is something so powerful. So can you talk about the concept of the open air market and also the concept of the food truck rally?
Yes. So I start with the food truck. Um, so I'm excited about this, and I know that there's going to be some bumps in the road to get this brought to fruition. But I'm excited about this food truck project that we're wanting to bring into the Northwest community, where we identified an area on Lincoln Avenue, specifically designed to house a couple food truck vendors. Now we do know that there's people who sell food in Northwest community. They're not registered. Um, they have food trucks. They're selling out of their homes. And what we were thinking about is why would we want to look at them in a negative light? Why would we want to discipline them? Why would we want to I guess, turn them in or shut them down? Why not provide an avenue for them to really, really showcase their business?
And become
Because it is a
legitimate.
business. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So we want to give them the tools, and I'll definitely be working with you, Sarah, because I know that you guys have an economic development portion where you're supporting business owners. But we want to highlight these business owners, highlight individuals who support their community by their craft,
Hmm.
and present them with a location like all the other neighborhoods and areas have these locations for food trucks, and let that be a destination. Okay, because that's what we're thinking about. That's where our goal is, to let that be a destination in a community area that people have given up on. So we'll be getting with some food truck vendors. I just got a list of them from our co-officers, and I'll be getting in contact with them so we can bring that program to fruition. And I'm thinking hopefully summer time would be a great kickoff for a program like this. But again, it's a space on Lincoln Avenue that is owned by the CRA, and it'll be it's a parking lot area, and we'll decorate it up. We'll make sure that the community is involved with the decoration of it, and then we'll allow these vendors to have a space instead of just shutting them down or violating them, or what have you. Now there will be some individuals that don't want to be a part of it, that want to do stuff behind the scenes, and I can tell you that's not helping the situation. So please work with me, because I would love to get you to where you need to be when it comes to good standings with the city, because that's where we want to be. We don't want to, have the city, continue to look at these individuals as nuisance, and people possibly get sick, and it's a black eye for the community. We're not looking at any black eye for the community. We're trying to do things right, but we're trying to support the community. So Sarah, that sorry.
No, no, I was just going to say along those lines, if there are people who don't want to show up at our destination, so to speak, but you have a food truck, but you just don't necessarily, I mean, you don't have to be a part of the event, but I would really, really encourage you to be a part of these conversations, because what we're trying to achieve partially is compliance. So you don't have to sell food at our food truck rally, but you do need to be in compliance with the rules, regardless of where you are. And so even if you don't want to participate, still correspond and learn what you need to know, because you might think you're in compliance and you're not. Or, any number of things. So I don't want people to be deterred by the fact that they don't want to park their food truck on Lincoln and participate in a rally and, whatever perceived competition or whatever their reason is. You can still be a part of this effort and still get the assistance of the city through Daryl. And myself, I'm more than willing to help, even though I'm not a city official. What we want is for our businesses to thrive, for people to be able to feed their families in a way that's safe and healthy and in compliance with the law, so that we don't have, for example, the sheriff's office later coming and trying to shut you down, even though the city said, okay, we're going to ignore it and give you some time. The sheriff's office may come, or food and beverage might come, or the health department might come. And so we want to make sure that you can continue to develop your business economically, and not be in a position of someone coming and charging you with violating the law, or get fining you or making your life more difficult, because that feels very targeted. And we want to make sure that you can be successful. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I do want to make sure that people who
No,
don't
that's
want to
fine.
participate in the event know that they can still participate in the resources.
Yeah, and thank you for putting that blurb out. And then all of these things that we're doing, we're definitely going to blast it out. Because I know, some people are like, this is all talk, but no, seriously, they're going to come to fruition. They are. And
Listen,
Sarah,
y'all, Daryl is a man of action. He has
yeah,
shown me that I have yet to see anything that's just talk, just for anybody who doesn't know Daryl Starling.
yeah, and that's something that I want to continue to show, you and the community, that you guys are spending your dollars are well spent in my position. But I thank you for putting that blurb out, and I did want to just encourage people. You want to be a part of these initiatives, you can get in contact with me or Sarah. Sarah's not a city official, but she kind of is, because Sarah's all over the city meeting boards. Yes, Sarah is very knowledgeable of what is going on in the city, so you can get in contact with her as well. But those are two initiatives that we're like, okay, those are low hanging fruit. You know, those are things that we can start, with little to no funding, and have be brought to the community, and have it just thrive and flourish, and really, really bring energy into the community. Something a little bit more meaty would be, just like you said, Sarah, the affordable housing, the housing development initiative. So we're working with developers that are about to, on B Street, that's north and south of Lincoln Avenue, um, develop affordable housing.
Mhm.
We know through Polk County, that their housing and neighborhood development, um, the director Tamara West has repeatedly said that we need more affordable housing in Polk County. When I tell you that we're about to bring some affordable housing initiatives in Lincoln, on north and south of Lincoln Avenue, on B Street, and in Northwest Community, we're doing that. So
Yeah.
we're working with a developer right now who is about to break ground within the next couple of weeks or a month or so. And this developer, which is Keystone Challenge Fund, this developer has worked all throughout Polk County when it comes to affordable housing. So he'll be building top of the line homes and giving it back to a resident in that community, or an individual who's working in that community. So we don't want this to be an initiative that is seen is not supporting residents or people who want to own a home in the community. This is right in Northwest community for residents in Northwest community, these homes.
And also, I want to point out surrounding that is education. If you
Yes,
don't know about mortgages and credit and stuff like that, there's education surrounding it that's actually required as a part of the program. There's
yes.
also, if you don't understand the finances or you don't think you make enough money, I saw the numbers last night. You would be surprised. And so
Well,
I
well,
saw what the income requirements are, and they're not crazy. And they're very, very doable. When I do consultations, I ask people about their income every day, so I kind of have an idea of what the local income is based on, people who call my office, and just other research that I've done. So don't think that you're not eligible. Also, if you're a property owner, who either wants to build or needs different services in terms of you owning property or wanting to buy property, we are working on programs for local individuals who own property to make sure that they can develop in the way that they can. So even if this isn't the program for you, we are working on a multifaceted housing program to really build up the neighborhood in a way that's complete and not just cookie cutter. So don't think that this is the only program or that you don't qualify. Ask the questions if you're interested in home ownership or development of your property. We're a little short on time, but I want to make sure that we get in about the open air market because that is all the other concepts we talked about are probably familiar to people in this area. I don't think we've ever had anything, as far as I can tell, particularly in the Black community, like what you discussed in West Tampa. And I know that you and I have discussed it more, sort of in detail, but I want you to talk to us about what that means and what it looks like.
yes. So, man, so the plan is for us to bring a open market to the Northwest community that highlights small business owners, people who own their small business, who want to start their business, or who wants to flourish their business.
Mhm.
So the open market will highlight that. It'll be a business incubator. So the way we
Tell
designed
us
it.
what that looks like. I mean, physically to the eyes, if people don't know what an open
Mhm.
market is.
So an open market is basically vendors that sell crafts, that sell sometimes services, ornaments, food. Um, they're brought to a specific neighborhood on maybe like the weekend, or every other weekend, just to showcase their business on a small scale. So some of these vendors, they already have like a brick and mortar business, a big business, and they're just wanting to point you toward that business by attending the open market. But with us, we know that there's potential in Northwest. We know that there's like creative minds in Northwest, people who want to get into the business arena, but they want to do it on a small scale, or they have a small business. So we want to showcase those businesses at this open market. So it could be, for example, we could have every third weekend of the month, we'll have an open market at a designated location. Let's say that we have it at a park in Northwest community, and surrounding those vendors would be possibly an event. It could be maybe you have like a church choir come and they're singing, or you'll have a performance, or just something that the community can sink their teeth into, other than just walking around and talking to vendors. So we want to make it an actual event. So this open market, like I said, it will be a business incubator designed to showcase these small business owners and really help them develop their business. Now, coupled with that will be a small business symposium. So that will be educating you on how to start or how to grow your business. So it'll educate you on QuickBooks, on business loans, on micro loans, on space, on just insurance for your employees, just all of that. It will educate you on those different attributes that a thriving business really need to understand. So we're looking to bring both of those. I already talked with the Small Business Development Center, who they're open to doing a business symposium. But I told them I have to, I want to vet that with you, Sarah, and a couple other people first, because it'll possibly be virtual. Individuals, maybe be invited to like a virtual room to be a part of this small business symposium. And then we want to support them by opening up this open market. So that's kind of the idea. And like I said, I know some people may say like, oh yeah, this is just no, it's going to be brought to fruition if I or Sarah have anything to do with it.
And we
You're
do.
very excited. So that's an idea. We have to talk about a location. I would like to, just like we're doing right now with the mural, Sarah, start a small little committee. I know that you guys are doing things at the LCDC, so maybe I can just kind of be roped into your committees there, economic development, but and kind of start the planning and really solidify a space and really bring this thing to fruition. But this will be specifically for the Northwest community, to
Right.
bring people in, keep the dollar circulating around the Northwest community. And I'm extremely excited about that.
Me too. Okay, so we are going to wrap up for today. Obviously, I have to have you back on because we have so much left to talk about. We didn't get half of our agenda, but I really enjoyed sort of the tangent we went on, because I think it's very important for the people of our community. And one of the things that we really focus on is community justice. And so I really enjoyed talking about those things, but I do want to have you back on, one, to update us on what's going on in the city, but also to sort of showcase some of the things that we're doing once they come to fruition.
Justice, freedom, yeah. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it's won. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it's won. We who believe in freedom free the rest. Yeah. We who believe in freedom must free the rest. You gotta love your brother, support each other, hold each other.